Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. My pockets are always bulgy with stuff. I like to have a notepad, a torch, Swiss Army knife, a pen with me all the time, so I thought there must be a better way of carrying it all. I thought I'd make a leather pouch that could go on my belt and then I'd always have the stuff with me and not in my pockets. I decided to wet form the leather, so you need a mould to form it round. I had a bit of wood about the same size as all the bits I wanted to go into the pouch. This could then get attached to a backing board, leaving plenty of space around the outside so clamps could go on. Whilst I waited for the glue to dry, I could start work on the other half of the mould. This needs to slip around the block of wood I cut, so it needs to have enough clearance for the thickness of the leather. To make this thick leather more malleable and easier to work, first I soaked it in some warm water. After it had been in there a few minutes, I could then get it out and start putting it into the form. It took a bit of work moving it around and getting it in the position I wanted. I left it sticking up proud from the top of the form so I could trim it all neatly back later. You can never have enough clamps, and I tried to get as many as I could on this, but I hadn't really thought through how I was going to get clamps on the bottom. But never mind, I just drove some screws in, and the clamping pressure of some screws pulling down actually worked really well. With it all clamped up, it just needed to be left to dry. This was back in the summer, so I could actually leave it in the sun to bake. After about 3 days, I could take all the clamps and the screws off and have a look at what I had. It's amazing how just wetting the leather and then putting it around a shape manages to set it hard into a position. Unfortunately, with wet forming you always have quite a bit of leftover leather because you need it to go around the outside for clamping. So I could trim this all off. Using the mould as a bit of support, I could mark out how deep I wanted the pouch to be and then trim it to that. I got a scrap more leather to use as the back and for the flap. I marked this out and then cut it to size. I wanted the flap to have angled corners, so I just drew out where I wanted the angles to go and then I could cut the corners off. Before I went any further, I just did a little test to make sure the flap would work. It seemed okay, so I moved on. First I was undecided how to secure the pouch to my belt. I had some metal clips that could go on the back, but the trouble with those are, if you're clambering around in shepherd's huts, you might knock the pouch off. I decided to keep it simple and just put a couple of leather loops on. The holes just got punched for the stitching and then them sewn onto the back. With the lid of the pouch closed, I decided to go with some snap fastenings. It was best to add these now, as when the pouch is all put together it'd be hard to get in there to put them on. After punching the holes in the flap, I can then use those holes to mark out where they need to go in the actual pouch. I could then use my snap setting tool to secure them all in place. Now it was time to secure the pouch to the back and the flap. I used some PVA glue just to hold the two together. This is just normal wood PVA, and I find it works fine on leather. I mean, it's not going to be a permanent bond, it's just to hold it all secure until I get the stitching in place. I find these spring clamps can leave marks on the leather, so I use little scraps of leather to protect it. Because of the belt loops I'd stitched onto the back, I couldn't lay the pouch flat on the bench, so I used a little block of wood. Then I could work my way around the outside with the pricking iron, marking out where all the stitches needed to go. Then it was just the tedious job of working my way round, stitching it all together. It gets easier as you go along, as the threads you've cut initially get shorter and shorter. With the two bits attached together, I could go around the outside and trim off any excess leather and then bevel the edges. The edges can all then be burnished on the drill press to leave a nice shiny finish. And that's it all done. You can tell my years of being in the Boy Scouts really paid off. Now I'm ready for anything. Thanks for watching. and please subscribe for more videos.